pleased to have here on the show. His new book, Talking to Goats, is available where all books are sold. Go get it today. The great Jim Gray back here on the show. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you?
I am fine. I am sorry I'm a couple minutes late to get to you. And,
no problem.
No, it's all good. Look, there's nothing more personal than writing a book. Nothing more personal than writing a book. And this is now on the shelf forevermore. What made you want to do this, Jim?
I just felt it was time with everything that had gone on. And it's been 43 years in broadcasting and thousands upon thousands of interviews and events. And
Right.
It just kind of all added up. And Stedman Graham always tells me two things. He's written 12 books. He says, Jim Gray, they're paying you to talk. Just keep talking. And get all this down on paper. So I finally took his advice.
Okay, and how long did it take you? Did you have any help here? Or?
I did.
Okay.
Greg Bishop of Sports Illustrated did a tremendous job. He wrote the book with me. It took us just under 3 years. And
wow.
He went through all these interviews and transcripts and dug up all these stories with me and really did a great job. He's a really diligent, terrific writer.
Anything that you saw as a thread through line to the GOATs that you're referring to? You put many of them on the front cover of your book. You had Tom Brady's writing the forward. Is there a through line that you found with all of these people that you have spoken to, so successful that they were?
I think they all have, those basic components of hard work, dedication, and they're myopic in their pursuit of that excellence.
Right.
But they all seem to go about it in much different ways.
And how so?
Well, I mean, some of them are tormented by that ability to touch perfection but not grasp it, like Michael Phelps, who spent his entire life, as an adult staring at a black line to try and get a fingernail to the end of the board first. And that just think about that statement and what that might do to you. Floyd Mayweather defined himself much differently with a 50-0 record. That O after his name meant everything to him. And also that O after his bank account meant everything to him.
That's right.
Whereas Don Shula, the perfect season, ended up defining him, not only the 347 wins, which is the most all time, but what he wanted for his team to have 1972 be remembered forever. So everybody goes about it differently. Tom Brady, obviously, he wants to touch it again and again and again and again, and he can't hold on to it. But he's had the perfect quarter. He's had the perfect comeback. He's had, all of those things. But what drives him is to do it, for the seventh time now. And Kobe Bryant didn't matter to him. Kobe Bryant was going to win no matter what, and the commitment to win. It didn't matter who you were. If you were a teammate or an opponent and you were in the way, he knocked you over. So they all go about it differently, but they all are trying to reach the same place.
Jim Gray here on the Rich Eisen Show, 12-time Emmy Award winner and now author, Talking to Goats, where all books are sold. Is it safe to assume that you've interviewed Brady more than anybody else because of your week-to-week conversation that you've had with him for all these years?
I would say that's fair,
okay.
Yes.
So then what do you think he's thinking right now, Jim?
Today?
Yes, sir. Today, after last night.
He's thinking, how did I lose that game, and why did I throw those passes, and how am I going to get better next week? And it's a short week, and it's a short, memory, and the losses do linger much, much longer than the victories. And so I'm sure he's beating himself up today, and it's not a good day for him. Or his teammates, and he wants to doesn't want that to happen, and he didn't. It's not what we're used to seeing in the end of games, but it's inevitable too. Look, unlike boxing where you're defined by one loss now, how many games did the Chiefs lose last year? You can still be a champion. Is the point. One game can go quickly in the NFL. It wasn't 3 or 4 weeks ago. Everybody thought they were the best team in the NFL, and then they played the Saints and had a bad performance, and they played last night, and it wasn't a bad performance. It just wasn't a victory.
No, I know. I mean, all those America's Game documentaries that NFL Films puts together so expertly, all those 6 of them that Brady's Patriots were able to place in front of the mavens at NFL Films to put together, all of them had some sort of adversity that they had to face at some point, and it appears that we are seeing that right now for Tom. Why do you think he's still doing it, Jim?
Because he still can, and he still, again, what have we seen? These 5 interceptions in those 2 games. Before that, it was 20 touchdowns and 5 or 6 interceptions on the year. And a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them, came very early in the season. So he went 200 passes because he can still do it. His arm strength is there. His mind is still there. His abilities are all still there. And it's not like, Frank Layden said it many, many years ago. He was a great coach for the Utah Jazz, and he had a bad season. He says, you folks think I went dumb overnight?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So he was a coach of the year or whatever he was, and terrific. And so he can still do it. And, I that's why he does it, because he loves football and he loves his family. And that's what his life is. So he always says, why do everybody want me to retire? Well, they want me to retire because he used to say they hate me in 31 cities. Now they hate him in 30 cities. Boston still, I believe, loves him, and Tampa loves him. So everybody else wants a chance to win. So it's not over yet. He always says football starts at Thanksgiving. So that's this week. So it's not a very good prelude for the Bucs going into Thanksgiving, but let's see where they are next week, and it won't get any easier with Kansas City.
A few more minutes left with Jim Gray talking to GOATs. Any of your interviews throughout your career that you wanted to make sure is spotlighted in this book because it's a story you wanted to get out, a backstory you wanted to get out, certainly when there's so many narratives involving many of your interviews throughout the years, Jim?
Well, I think, the decision now, 10 years in the rearview mirror, there's a chapter on that, and we discuss everything that went on with that show and what it looks like now today. Pete Rose, that was 21 years ago. That caused a lot of controversy and agita and tumult, and we go through that. And by the way, after 21 years, about 2.5 weeks ago, for a special on Fox that just aired, I went back and sat down with Pete Rose, and we spoke for an hour. So it was a really interesting conversation, and really went well. And so I was glad that Pete did that. So those are two. Obviously, a chapter on Tiger Woods, one of the first interviews that he ever did, where he predicted his greatness when he was 9 years old. Said, when I grow up, I want to win all the majors and beat all the pros. Became a very famous Nike commercial.
Yes.
So there's just a lot in here that, not necessarily wanting to set any records straight, but just my version of events of what's gone on and what I've learned and what the public can learn through all of these guys, great athletic achievements and their trials and tribulations.
What was more interesting, the conversation you had on camera with Pete or the off-camera one to set up the on-camera, Jim?
Well, here's what happened, Rich. About a year ago, the Cancer Society asked me to come and introduce Mike Tyson, who was being honored. And that same night, Pete Rose was being honored. So Pete walked over to the table, and I said to my wife, Fran, how's this going to go? So right. I stood up, and he extended his hand, and he said, Jim, you do a great job. You're really terrific at what you do. And I looked at him, and he said it again, and I said, you really don't mean that, Pete, do you? He said, no, I really do. What happened between us is 20 years ago, and a lot has changed. A lot has gone on. So Mike Tyson stood up because we didn't know what was going to happen. And Pete says to Mike, who do you think would have won that fight between Jim and I? And he said, there's no question, Jim would have killed you. So that broke all the ice, okay? So,
right.
We had a nice conversation, and I just figured, it's been 21 years. The book is coming out. Fox is nice enough to give me a special on the book.
Right.
And I called up Pete, and he said yes right away. Drove over to Las Vegas, and we sat down at the Bellagio Hotel, and we talked about that night. He said, you were just doing your job. I recognized the timing and recognized that, the tone of that from people having a melancholy feeling of seeing Ted Williams and Sandy Koufax and all their heroes,
right.
That, perhaps what I should have done could have taken place at any other time. But on that night, it was actually his Hall of Fame celebration that the fans were giving him. So, we just went through it and, reminisced and spoke about everything that transpired after that.
But Mike Tyson was ready to step in and be your
Mike was ready to step. Yeah,
he was ready to step in on your behalf.
Yeah, because Mike really just kind of guards me everywhere I go, Rich.
Well, then put him on the phone, Jim.
Well, that's not hard. You need Mike on your show?
No. I thought he's right next to you, is what I'm saying.
Right now, no. He's with Kiki training for his fight this weekend.
That's right. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? Oh my
gosh, he's quite a guy, Mike Tyson. There's a lot more to him. That's the name of the chapter in the book. Much more than the bite. Much more than the bite.
Jim, I appreciate the time. Congrats on the book. Congrats on getting it all out there. Hope you sell a lot of them, and everybody should go get Talking to Goats where all books are sold. Appreciate the time, Jim.
Rich, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Back
Happy
at you.
Thanksgiving to you and Susie and the family. And, You're the best. Appreciate
Thank you.
it, pal.
Right back at you. Thank you, Jim. That's Jim Gray right here, forward by Tom Brady. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.